Hello, and you're all very welcome along to another episode of the Gaelic Statsman podcast. And tonight I am joined by Seamus Brady from An Cluiche to discuss this weekend's games. Obviously, as we all know, there's less games now, but obviously the championship is ramping up with knockout taking centre stage now. It's knockout in all four codes except for Camogie. Obviously, Camogie is still in the group stages of that competition, but the other three codes, it's complete knockout and there's no more safety nets. We are definitely looking forward to this weekend's action as well. Shout out to our sponsors, Capture Athletics. If you want the best gear around, check them out if you haven't already. And as well as that, anybody in the comment section, feel free to get a comment in to prolong this show and get me and Seamus talking about the games this weekend. So yes, Seamus, the games this weekend now are predominantly on knockout, as I mentioned. Camogie still a bit away from that yet, but the group stage is still ongoing in that. But the football, the LGFA and the hurling, there's no more safety nets now, all knockout.
Which is championship at its best. I mean, that's what we want to see. We don't want dead rubber games. We want to see that championship intensity. We want to see stuff on the line. We want to see jeopardy. Jeopardy is what makes for the best championship game. So from this time of year on, every game is box office. And I mean, I'm going to try and make my way to Croke Park for that double header. I might watch the first game behind my fists like this, terrified of what Limerick might do if they're on full throttle, but I think we might be able to give a decent account of ourselves. And the Cork game, again, I think we're slight favourites, but I am nervous, having watched how Cork pushed Kerry all the way and very aware of the threat that Cork possess, because where Cork are strongest is where Dublin are probably most vulnerable this season, especially around midfield, where Cork are really, really strong. So look, we'll dive into all of that, and looking forward to jumping on. It's good to be back on.
Exactly. So yeah, in regards to that double header in Croke Park, I am definitely going to that as well. Obviously, as not as a fan this time, but in the media box, which should be very, very interesting. We'll have to see what happens there.
Who are you going with? Southern Star, is it?
Southern Star, yeah, for Cork against Dublin.
Good stuff.
So yeah, really much looking forward to that game, and we'll have to see what happens in the Limerick and Dublin game as well, which will be the first game as well. Gavin will comment in here. Hope we would have gotten some heavy hitters against each other like Donegal, Galway, or Kerry, Galway. Yeah, Gavin, I probably would have hoped that would have been the case as well. I'm sure Seamus would have been as well, and any other GA head. But at the same time, I think there is going to be a shock this weekend. I think it's just a spoiler. I think it's either going to be in Croke Park or Park Esther, one of them two. I don't know which way it's going to go, but it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens this weekend. But before we dive into it, we will start in football and then we'll go on to the hurling, then LGFA, and then Camogie. But we'll dive into weekly Gaelic games first of all. Liam White has commented here, looking forward to the digs once he discussed Dublin and Cork. Exactly.
I feel like everyone's trying to pin us against each other. I felt like that in the J Mac pod. John threw to me straight after you predicted Cork to beat Dublin. I was like, let's see what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But spoiler alert, we will talk about Cork and Dublin first. But first of all, we will talk about week at the Gaelic games. There is one news story to discuss, and obviously that's our managerial departure in Sligo. This time it is Tony McEntee. He's left his role as Sligo senior football manager after a dear defeat in the Tailteann Cup quarter-final against Fermanagh. I suppose Seamus, he did a good job in raising the standards in Sligo football. They came close to Mayo, obviously the college championship. Went to the quarterfinals of the Tailteann Cup. Probably would have been disappointed to exit at the quarterfinals in many ways, considering Sligo would have been favourites nearly for that competition, along with the likes of Kildare and Offaly. They are out Tailteann Cup quarterfinals, so Tony McEntee's left his post. I'm sure Sligo will think of a good appointment to replace Tony McEntee, but McEntee is out the door.
Yeah, and look, he did a great job. There's no getting around it. He did an absolutely fantastic job with this Sligo team. He upped the standards. He managed, I thought, the emergence of the young talent that they have. I thought he managed that really, really well, like getting players like Canis Mulligan into the team. And he managed that transition really, really well and really got the best out of players like Pat Spillane, like Niall Murphy, like Sean Carabine. Like they all flourished under him. Dara Cummins as well. Absolutely shone in the Tailteann Cup last year. The harsh way to look at it is it is a reign, though, that is kind of summed up by like near misses. They like multiple times they nearly had a result that made you really go, wow. Like they nearly beat Galway last year in the Connacht Championship before Finity's goal. They nearly beat Down in that Tailteann Cup semi-final. And if they had won that, I would have made them strong favourites to win the final against Laois. They had multiple moments under Tony where it was clear that they could compete above their station. They were kind of like plucky underdogs type. Like they could be clear underdogs in the game, but they could really put it up to a team that was in Division 2 in the higher echelons or in the lower echelons of Division 1. They could really, really put it up to those teams. But they could never quite get that ultimate blow against them in order to get over the line and get the win. I do think if he had stuck around, I do think that win would have come. I think this could be one of those reigns that is kind of similar to like almost Pat Gilroy pre-Jim Gavin, that like someone lays the groundwork for then the next guy to come along and take them to the next level. And I think they have to get this next appointment correct, because Tony has done an incredible job, not only for his own reign, but he has teed it up really, really well for whoever comes in. They need to get the next appointment right, because the young talent is all there. They've got, the medals at under 20 level to prove it. They got the medals at club level, at college level to prove it. There's a serious team there for the taking. They just need the right manager to come along and put it all together. And it'd be interesting to see who they go with. But for Tony, he did an amazing job. And wish him all the best. I don't think this is the end that we'll see of Tony in management. I think we could see him maybe taking charge of Armagh in some capacity before he's done with management. I don't know how long Geezer plans to stick around for. Oisin McConville maybe is another shout there to succeed him if he does go. Kevin was talking about Antrim, and that Antrim would love to have Tony McEntee. I mean, that definitely is.
And Gavin.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's one that's a lot closer to home. The travel wouldn't be as taxing, which you imagine definitely was something that was considered in his reason to depart. But yeah, he did an amazing job. It's teed up really well for whoever replaces him. Who do you think it will be? Because Eamon O'Hara is a name that is kind of like a dark horse. He managed Mohill really well in the Leitrim Championship. He is definitely a wild card, because I think he's a Roy Keane type. I think he's the type that I could see players falling out with him, because he demands absolutely 100% dedication. He wouldn't be someone to bend. You remember his comments about Kevin Walsh on the Sunday game. Do you remember? I think Kevin Walsh has a lot to answer for. Like, he's definitely fiery, but he could be just the guy that they need. I'd probably lean slightly to O'Hara. Who would you be thinking?
You know what? Gavin did mention it briefly. He said, if Moore doesn't go to Mayo, then it should be very interesting as well. Like, Gavin mentioned that. I think Andy Moore could be the appointment for Sligo.
Could be,
because he did a decent enough job at Leitrim, and that could again progress his management career, things like that as well. And I suppose I remember a great example of this, of laying the foundations and then getting the new manager to take up to the next level. The Tipperary footballers, obviously Peter Creedon did well to lay the foundations at Tipperary. Then the guy to take it to the next level was Liam Kearns, God rest his soul, obviously. Great manager for Tipperary football, but he brought them to the All-Ireland semi-finals. He beat Cork in the Munster semi-final, beat Galway in the quarter-final as well. Tip had a lot of potential, and he made them realise that. But it can't be forgotten as well, Peter Creedon did lay the foundations for Tipperary. So I think it could be Yeah, exactly. Conor Cooney. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of examples of this, definitely, without a doubt. There is a load of examples, no doubt about that. Another interesting comment Sean is saying here, McEntee to Derry. That's quite an interesting. Do you not think so?
No. In my opinion, he'd be an idiot to take that job. Yeah, like because what we were talking about on the JMac pod. Like, I was tempted to say as well, I was like, and for Derry to move forward, just forget about Gallagher. Over the course, without going too deep into that quagmire, I think, like, if you look throughout this season, Garrett McKinless went on the GA Social talking all about Gallagher and the year that they had with him. And I'm like, is McKinless retired? I'm like, no, he's not. He's still a player on the squad right now with a different manager. You got Brendan Rodgers doing interviews talking about how great it was and they'd love to work with Gallagher again, while they still have Tally as manager. It's really, really disrespectful and undermining to him to go out and do that. Like, imagine going out with someone and talking about how great your ex was. Like that's basically what this Derry team are doing every time they talk about Gallagher in an interview while Paddy Tally is manager. They need to move on from that because clearly that ship has sailed. It's gone. It's done. He's not going to come back. And they have the talent right now and they are wasting it by looking back on what might have been in 2023, in 2024.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
The thing is, Derry could have easily, I know we're sidetracked, but Derry could have easily kept Kieran Meena in the job. He wasn't doing a particularly bad job in 2023. And now he's gone into down. That's exactly, like he's gone into down now, and look what we're down are. Like, they could easily cause a shock this weekend against Galway.
But when you look back at last year, man, when you look back at last year and how terrible they were in that quarter-final against Kerry, they were so bad. And then Armagh won the All-Ireland. And I'm not saying it in a way that's like Armagh absolutely deserved to win it. But my point is Derry would have seen themselves as on a very equal level to Armagh. They beat Armagh on penalties in that Ulster final. And when they watched Armagh go and win the All-Ireland, surely Conor Glass, Brendan Rodgers, Shane McGuigan must have been sitting there thinking, we could have won it then. If you just kept the ship steady and not had it collapse the way that it did the minute that you ran into a bit of turbulence. Mickey Hart, ironically, whatever about him being a Tyrone man, he absolutely had the know-how and experience to get a team over the line to an All-Ireland. He did it with Tyrone 3 times. That's one of those things. It's like, the Chicago Bulls bringing in Dennis Rodman. It's like, okay, you might have hated him when he was playing for a different team, but you know how good he is, and now he's on your side. So work together and get the result that you both want. But they let the ship fall apart. And I'm not saying that they would have won that All-Ireland. Armagh still were fantastic and fully deserving of that All-Ireland title. But Derry, playing to the level that they played in that league final against Dublin, it would have been a hell of a contest between the two of them in that All-Ireland semi-final. If Derry had beaten Kerry, they would have met Armagh in the semi-final. What a game that would have been. And who knows who would have come out the right side.
Would have been an unreal game. Just on Sligo for a bit before we leave this, with 3 comments in here. Adam is saying here, they ran Mayo close in the first game of the championship, to be fair. Absolutely. Really close in that game. It's Sean is saying here, don't think Sligo adapted to the new rules. I fear for Sligo that it could all the good work could be in vain if they don't get the next appointment right. We would have liked to see him build Sligo like Geezer did with Armagh. It's an interesting opinion there. Last point of this, would McAdee have been better off staying with Sligo, do you think?
Well, we don't know. Obviously, he left for good reasons. Like, we just don't know. Maybe just, his personal life, he just wasn't able to keep going with that commitment. Maybe it was the travel. Maybe it was, the work balance. Like Liam Sheedy leaving Tip. Like, absolutely Liam Sheedy leaving Tip was because of his personal life and everything like that. And he left at the top. So there's often reasons that we're not aware of why a manager has to leave. And with Tony, it might be just one of those. Maybe it's just he didn't have the gas in the tank to keep going. But maybe somewhere closer to home, like an Antrim, might be a more viable one for him. I do think on the Derry situation, I'd be surprised if Tally doesn't stick around for another year. I'd be surprised if he goes. If he goes, then it looks like a poison chalice. Because Mickey was there, lasted a year, not even. Paddy Tally's there, lasted a year again, not even. So who wants to take that next? Not a lot of people. Yeah.
And there could be, we'll talk about Derry more so next season or at the end of season gradings, but just on a point on Derry, if they get rid of Tally now, look at them in Division 2 next year, with Meath on the rise, you have other teams in there as well.
There's only one place left, promotion-wise.
And it could very well be a Meath, dare I say it, a Cork. Down aren't in it, which is very, very weird. Obviously, they're back in Division 3. Kildare, awfully, could they fancy play? It should be very interesting, but we will talk more about Division 2.
Just to say this as well, I was just before we move, I was asking a lot as well. I was saying, what do you think makes that difference for Derry? What do you think, makes them lose games now that they might have won when they were on the crest of a wave? And I was saying 2023 and the league in 2024, I truly believe that Derry team truly believed that they were the best team in the country. I truly believe they believed that. And I think the Donegal defeat, the Galway defeat, and the Armagh defeat all shook them to their core and made them think like, wow, I don't know if we are the best team around. And my point is they're given that kind of energy that like they're now in the league and in the championship last year. The year before, they kicked on when the going got tough. They kicked on when those crucial moments happened where they could win games. They kicked on in those moments. Whereas last year, when Mickey left, from that point on, when the going has, when it's come down to a score or two, they've usually dipped at that point. They're usually really competitive, but I feel like they don't have the same belief in themselves that they had when they were at the crest of the wave.
Yeah, exactly. And we will again talk about Derry more next season, but we will go on to this season now and into the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship preliminary quarterfinals. And we will start with the game happening in the stadium right behind us here, Seamus. Dublin against Cork on Saturday at 6:15 p.m. live and from Croke Park on GA Plus this Saturday. The last few occasions between Dublin and Cork, especially 2022 and 2019, we were saying, okay, Cork had put it up to Dublin for about 60 minutes, then Dublin would put the gas burners on and burn Cork until the very end of the game. This game, in more ways than one, feels kind of different, considering Cork, I would say, have improved under John Cleary since then, and Dublin aren't the team what they once were. I don't think that's an unpopular thing to say since the 6-in-a-row team or the 8 All-Irelands in 10 years. Dublin aren't the same team. So what you have now is a very, very interesting game between the two sides.
Yeah, no, you're right. Cork have taken steps forward. Dublin have been forced to take steps back, I would say, from the players that we've lost since the 2022 game. I mean, we've lost Fenton, McCarthy, Mannion, McCaffrey, generational player after generational player. You can't keep losing players of that caliber and not decline somewhat in your performance and in your output. So the question is, where exactly are Dublin? And that is a really hard question to answer this year. What I'm seeing is we're capable of incredible performances, but we're also capable of really flat performances. Like the first half against Meath was a really, really sobering experience. The first half against Kerry in the league, which I keep going back to, the game down in Tralee, we had an awful first half, came out and won the second half and won that game to beat Kerry in Tralee for the first time since 1982. And that showcased that, there is the grit, there is the fight in this team. However, we need to put that consistency together. And we've usually this season followed up a great performance with a bad performance. Like we were really, really good on the road against Galway. Going away to Galway and beating them was outrageous. Like when you think about it, what we were off the back of, we were going away to a team peddled as front runners for the All-Ireland, which rightfully so when you look at the talent that they have and the squad that they have and the form that they were in. They just won Connacht again. And we go away to their backyard and beat them. And then we came back to Croke Park against Armagh. And it's not that we lost, it's that Armagh looked so comfortable. Armagh looked like it was just, no big deal. Go down to Croke Park, beat Dublin. And I was like, wow, that was shockingly easy for Armagh. Like, shockingly easy. Never once did I think we were going to win that game. When the ball was thrown in, I never once thought we were going to win that game. And then we followed that up with a really, really dogged, determined and impressive performance up in Port Esler to beat a very, very game and competitive Derry team. So I would put it more so, simple terms, I would put it this way. I think if the Dublin turn up that played against Galway, I think Dublin win. I think if any other version that we've seen so far this year in the Championship of Dublin turns up, I think Cork have a huge chance to turn us over.
Commenting here, Sean O'Malley saying you will back Dublin in Croke Park, but I think Cork love being written off and always raise their game at the quality of the opposition. Gavin saying here, look at Dublin's form. Win v Meath, lose v Meath, win v Galway, loss v Armagh, win v Derry. Next should be a loss, good omen for Cork maybe, we'll see. And Sean is saying here, I think Dublin have fared really well when it comes to the battle of midfield since the Meath game. Cork will pose another challenge though. And that's the thing, I did write in this week's Southern Star about the battle in midfield between Cork and Dublin, and the headline was Cork have to win the midfield battle to win the game. Simple as that. You have Colm O'Callaghan there, you have Ian Maguire, you have Sean Walsh. But what I noticed, a lot of commentary has been about Patrick Byrne and his performances. But I looked at this deeper now, and I found out ever since the second half of the Meath game, Dublin started to dominate midfield a lot more. And who came out of the second half to partner O'Cuffy Byrne? Killian McGuinness. This guy, I think, is the massive guy for Dublin in this game at the weekend. And when you look at the game against Derry in the last day, I think you retained 86% of your kickouts. Another thing as well, Cluxton is definitely going well under the new rules with these kickouts. And Killian McGuinness himself scored 3 points from play. They are excelling. But you see Cork really at their best in the second half against Roscommon. Nearly every kickout behind Martin put out, yes, it's a repetitive tactic again, putting it down the cluster side and hoping the boys would claim it. But Ian Maguire, Colin O'Callaghan in particular, was absolutely superb the last day against Roscommon. Sean Walsh has been really, really a good find by Cleary this year as well. So those 3 guys around the middle coming up against McGuinness and O'Cuffy Byrne, that's a key battle, isn't it?
Oh no, that you're absolutely right. That battle will decide the war. It really is a case of that, because whoever can dominate there is the best to get quality ball into their inside forward line. And what Meath were able to do against Dublin was they were able to box Dublin in somewhat, especially in that first half. Like Jack Flynn pushed up, Conor Duke pushed right up, and they really had Dublin in bother. And any kick out the Cluxton put, especially from the 20th minute to half time, felt like it was coming straight back at us. And not only that, but Meath were also going for 2 pointers. And I think that is something that Cork need to look at as well. If Cork have their foot on Dublin at some point, they need to do maximum damage. They need to be 8-10 points up when they're at one stage, I think, because Dublin will get a purple patch in this game. Both teams will get a purple patch. It's just who can do more damage when they're in that purple patch. And Meath, after dominating the midfield, what they did was they used that period to set up as much 2-pointer opportunities as they could. It felt like a day where every single one of them went over, especially from a Dublin perspective. And then at half time, they were in such a commanding position that Dublin had a mountain to climb in the second half. And ultimately, it was just a little bit too high, even though we did pull them back quite a lot. I think Cork, the midfield battle, they need to win it. And then they need to do maximum damage in a period where they will find themselves on top. Because I do feel like there will be a period where Cork will be significantly on top. I would imagine sometime in the first half, kind of around the 20th minute, I think Cork will get a good spell. And I think they need to do maximum damage from that point to halftime.
Another thing, and you mentioned the 2 pointers there, the most 2 pointers by any Dublin player in the championship has been Conor O'Callaghan or Cormac Costello with 2. When you look at Cork's 2-point scores, Brian O'Driscoll has 5 in the championship. Yeah. Brian Hurley has 4. Mark Cronin has 3. They need to get those guys in the shooting positions. As you said there, could that be an omen for Cork to kick on, especially with O'Driscoll this year? He has really excelled with the 2-pointers, and on a good day in Croke Park, they could make hay with them.
And we saw that against Kerry as well. We saw that in a big open Páirc Uí Chaoimh against Kerry, that Cork were able to close the gap on Kerry really, really fast with the 2-pointers. And they were able to, anytime Kerry kicked a couple of points, Cork could boom over a 2-pointer and reel them back in. Cork are capable of doing that. They're definitely more, I'd say they've embraced the 2-pointers more than Dublin have. And obviously from the stats, when you look at it, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I feel like there's 3 scenarios here. I feel like, and you tell me if you think I'm wrong, I feel like either Cork win, Cork really bloody up Dublin's nose, but we find a way through, or Dublin in Croke Park is just too much. And it isn't actually that close. I feel like the Croke Park factor is so important to look at, because teams have looked really competitive against Dublin in the past and then come to Croke Park and it's not been competitive at all. And it takes a certain type of blend to compete with Dublin in Croke Park. And what we saw as well was Armagh butcher Dublin with 2-pointers. So Cork definitely need to look at that as well. Armagh with Rian O'Neill and the like boomed over multiple 2-pointers and just kept the scoreboard ramping up and up. There's definitely a blueprint there for Cork to win. There's no question about it. But I feel like we're inching towards prediction time.
Exactly. Just before the prediction, a few more things. Gavin is saying in here first of all, and I'll ask you this, Seamus. Does Desi stay on if Dublin lose?
It's a really good question. It's a really good question because I remember 2020 he came in and that was like the weirdest year ever. I remember like that was the pandemic year and Dublin won that All Ireland in 2020 without beating a team that played in Division 1 the next year. Mayo had been relegated from the league, and then apart from that, we played Cavan in the semi-final, we played Meath in the Leinster final, and we played Westmeath and I believe, was it Wexford in the Leinster Championship? But that was who we played to win the All Ireland, like, which is crazy when you look back now. Like Kerry bombed out in Munster, Donegal bombed out in Ulster, Galway didn't get out of Connacht. Like there were so many things that kind of fell with that All Ireland that it didn't feel like as much as an achievement as previous All Ireland wins, where we had to go through like wars against Mayo and wars against Kerry in the 2019 final, for example. So Desi definitely got credit for that one. But then 2021, we absolutely collapsed against Mayo in that semi-final. And then a lot of players left the panel. Do you remember that period where Eric Lowndes left, Stephen Cluxton left without saying a word, Paul Mannion left, Jack McCaffrey left. And there was a lot of questions, not only because, apart from Cluxton, Eric Lowndes, Paul Mannion, Jack McCaffrey, all leaving when they were still in their prime, kind of had a lot of us being like, you know, why are these lads in their 20s leaving? And if you remember at the time, there was a lot of rumours of an unhappy camp because of the COVID training session and everything like that. And then Desi, after we lost the semi-final in 2022 against Kerry, I remember thinking that he might go. I remember thinking that maybe it might be the best thing if he does. I remember thinking Declan Darcy's there. Declan Darcy was Jim Gavin's right-hand man for many years with Dublin, or one of his trusted lieutenants. He could be a really good fit. Or someone like Darren Daly, who worked really close with Jim, or someone like Jason Sherlock. And then Desi turns it all around in 2023. But let's not forget, before that quarter-final against Mayo in 2023, we were awful. Like, we were really bad that year. We stuttered through Division 2. Should have been beaten by Cork. You remember that. Hurley shot off the post. Should have been beaten by Clare in Croke Park. Very, very lucky to win those games. We got out of Division 2. Had a good performance in the final against Derry. Got up to Division 1. We were weird in the Leinster Championship. And then had an awful game against Roscommon in Croke Park that finished in the most boring draw I have ever watched in my life. And it was one of the main games that had me convinced that the rules needed to be changed. Like, that was just shockingly boring. And then the quarterfinal hits against Mayo. All of a sudden, everything just clicked. Had 3 great games and won the All-Ireland. And then it's, okay, it all worked out. And 2024, we completely fell off the bandwagon again there against Galway in that quarterfinal. Was not expecting to lose that. And now we've lost the Leinster Championship. The one that was the banker, the one that couldn't fail, has failed. And we didn't win that championship this season. So if we then fail to win the All-Ireland as well, I think Desi's done enough to get one more shot in 2026. But then I think it would be All-Ireland or bust. Because we've got a lot of good managers in Dublin. We've got a lot of good coaches, a lot of good people who could take that job. And Desi, being in the job since 2020, I mean, if he stays into 2026, I mean, then he's in the job for the same amount of time that Jim Gavin was in the job. So should he get longer than Jim Gavin if he doesn't deliver an All-Ireland this year or next year? Probably not.
Sean is saying in here, I think Desi always gets flack for inheriting Jim Gavin's team and never got the same credit. That is a good point, to be fair, Sean. But prediction time now, Seamus. Cork or Dublin? Who are you saying?
Really, really interesting game. No question about it. I think Cork, as we were stating there in our analysis, Cork have a blueprint and have a path to beating Dublin. They're really strong around the middle. Ian Maguire, Colin O'Callaghan, Sean Walsh, they're all towering men, really, really strong around the midfield. They have a superb goalkeeper as well in Micheál Martin. And then on top of that, they have been very, very efficient in their 2-point shooting over the championship. Brian O'Driscoll, Mark Cronin, Brian Hurley have all been really, really efficient with the 2-pointers that they've kicked over the year. They have to follow the blueprint that Meath laid for them. If you are on top of Dublin around the midfield, you need to use that period to do maximum damage, just like Meath did against Dublin in the Leinster semi-final. So that when Dublin get their purple patch, which will come, you need to make sure that you have put enough of a gap between yourselves and the Dubs before they start reeling you back in, because that period will come. I think the Cork have the capabilities to do it. I think that they've played really, really well in multiple games across this season, showcasing the talent that they have, no less against the Kerry games. They were fantastic, and the Roscommon win was really, really good too. But I feel like Croke Park and Dublin is a daunting task. And I feel like if we get the Dublin that played against Galway, which I think will get it closer to that performance, then, for example, the Armagh performance, you can't have 2 poor performances in Croke Park in a row. We need to turn up in this one. Knockout football, as you said, no safety net. So I think Desi will have them drilled to the hill. I think the Dubs will probably shade it in a very competitive 4 or 5 point win for the Dubs. That's what I'm saying.
It's going to be a very interesting call. I think, look, I've said this all week. I've said it on the JMAT podcast, and I said it on the Southern Star podcast with Kieran McCarthy. I give Cork a massive chance here, simply because it's not the Dubs team that we've seen down through the years. And this Cork team is capable of a huge performance and a huge result. And Kieran did point out as well that the stat has been very, very interesting. In John Cleary's tenure as Cork football boss, in each and every year, he's managed to win 2 games in a row in one season. Cork haven't done that yet in the championship. They beat Roscommon last week. There's a chance to win 2 games in a row this time as well. There's a sort of a moment as well. I don't know, do you remember this, Seamus, when I know Dublin won the game by 11 points in the end, 21 points to 10 in 2022 in Croke Park. But Cleary got the Cork players in a huddle afterwards. And I'm not sure exactly what he said, but I think around the realms of what he was saying was, Dublin are at this level, lads. We need to get up to this level. We want to be up to this level in the next few years. Cork would be determined to get up to that level this Saturday, in my opinion. Having got that talk in 2022, some of them players would have been on that panel then. I'm going to say I think Cork could do it. I think there's going to be a shot this weekend, and I think Cork could manage it. It's a very difficult game to call, but maybe it's my kind of hope seeping through here. Maybe it's my heart talking a bit too much. I just think Cork might do it, but we'll have to see what happens. Liam, good question from me, actually. Will this be Cleary's last game? Interesting, very good question as well. I hope it's not, because as Seamus said about Desi, there's good managers in Dublin. In Cork, who's going to replace John Cleary if he leaves the job? So I feel like I hope Cleary stays. I want him to stay, and I'd say every avid Cork football supporter wants Cleary to stay. If they lose this Saturday, he might. I don't know really. I think if the Cork manage to get over the line this weekend, I think Cleary stays no matter what happens. If Cork lose this weekend, I don't know. I honestly don't know, but we'll have to see as well. And Liam saying could be both managers' last game if they lose. Could be. Your thoughts on that, James? Could it be Desi or John Cleary's last game?
With Cleary, I wouldn't be as clued up on it as yourself. From Desi's perspective, from a Dove's perspective, I do know that there are other managers waiting in the wings, people who've been doing the work at minor level, at under 20 level, and progressing through the grades, because let's not forget that's how things are done in Dublin. You take charge of the minors, you take charge of the 20s or the 21s as they were, and then you get the senior job if it becomes available. And that's how Jim Gavin did it. That's how Desi Farrell did it. And there's been good managers at that level, like Jason Sherlock, like Darren Daly, who have taken charge of teams, had success with them, and now they're waiting for if the job becomes available or not. Then you have to look at the club championship. You have to look at the success of, Coola. Like Austin O'Malley's a Mayo man, but I mean, if he lives in Dublin, that would be one for the books, wouldn't it? If a Mayo man took charge of Dublin, but you have to look at different managers and everything like that. I wouldn't rule out anyone, to be honest, in the club championship. Anything can happen, but I think the favourite is someone who's gone through that system. For Cork, Cleary was the obvious pick, given his expertise, given his credibility. I remember Keith Ricken had the job, and he stepped back from it for personal reasons after not that long. But I wonder, would it be worth throwing to him again, because he's still in management, isn't he?
He's managing the Cork Minors at the moment, but I'll tell you now, Seamus, he probably doesn't want the senior job. And look, that's fine. Yeah. Look, that's where he wants to be, an underage manager with Cork, developing young talent. That's what he loves to do. So that's what he wants to do.
Well, there you go. You can't really argue with that, because I remember he had the senior job for like a month, and then he gave it up. And I just remember seeing him do one interview as well. You might know the one that he did one interview where it was like, geez, this is one of the best manager interviews I've ever seen. Like, proper charismatic fella. But yeah, you'd look at other, players from that 2010 team, players that were legends, players that were inspirations from that Cork team, like the Graham Cantys of this world, and you wonder, could any of them be a rogue shout?
Yeah, it is. But I feel like, I'll say this now, out of the 2020 team, the only one capable, in my opinion, of taking over this intercounty football team is Paddy Cassan. I'll be honest with you. He has managed teams in the past in the club championship down here in Cork, the likes of Oak, for example. But look, as you mentioned, Graham Canty, he should be a good manager, but he just wants to be a Cork football fan now. He doesn't want to be Cork. Yeah, that's okay as well. Daniel Goulding's the same boat. Donegal O'Connor's the same boat. They either want to be. I think Donegal's actually still playing, for club level.
I swear he is.
It's absolutely mental, it really is. But look, we're both predicting different results here. Our own counties, not a surprise really, but we'll see what happens in HQ this Saturday. The other really interesting game in the preliminary quarterfinals, I have to say, and will be featured heavily, is down against Galway in Park Esler in Newry at 1:45 p.m. on Sunday, live on GA+. We talked about Cork and Dublin there. It's a very interesting kind of dilemma in who's going to win this game. Considering the way Down have performed, and considering the way Galway haven't really kicked up the gears in the group stages, this is another really interesting game to call.
Yeah, it's a really interesting game to call. Both of these teams were involved in two crackers at the weekend. Like, Down against Monaghan was an absolutely fantastic game, and especially you look at like the fine margins that Down had from getting a result in that game. Jack McCarron's goal was definitely picked up clean off the ground. Down would have had a lot of reason to feel hard done by in that game. You look at some of their individual performers. Pat Havern with 12 points, outrageous individual display. Oran Murdoch I thought was amazing. Danny McGill, absolutely superb. Like, Galway then, on the other hand, were involved in an absolute cracker themselves against Armagh. Superb match. And then, interestingly enough, have you seen the clip with Maurice Brosnan talking on Off the Ball, GA, where he was talking about Shane Walsh and how the Galway players kind of talked to him about why they trust him to be the one to take the shots and everything like that? Really, really interesting clip. Have a look at it. They're basically saying that Walsh himself was having a little bit of crisis of confidence. The lads basically went to him and were like, this is why we trust you to take the shots. And that's why he had an extra spring in his step, or one of the main reasons he had an extra spring in his step against Armagh, and why he was confident to take those shots at the end to get them over to the line, to get them the win, especially against a team where Walsh himself missed a couple of big chances going down the home stretch in last year's All-Ireland final. It was really important for him to play a key role in Galway getting revenge against Armagh, to kind of exercise them ghosts to some degree. It's two teams coming in on red hot form. It's two teams coming in off the back of being in really, really high scoring, entertaining, superb games of Gaelic football. And I expect this to be nothing other than a really, really entertaining game. I feel like it's going to be a high scoring Galway win. I feel like Galway will win by about 7, but it will be one of those weird games. Like, do you remember Dublin Kerry 2013 where Dublin ended up winning by 7? I
was watching that the other day, actually.
Yeah, but Dublin ended up winning by 7, but you were like, how in the living God have they managed to win by 7 when that game was in the melting pot but then Dublin just tore away in the last 5 minutes. I could see something like that happen where Galway just put the burners on with 5 minutes to go and just land a few 2-pointers to see them home. Because you have to remember, 7 points sounds crazy, but with the 2-pointers, you can open a gap and close a gap really, really quickly. And I think Down could just run out of gas going down the home stretch. Galway do have a deeper panel. And especially if they bring in the cavalry like the Peter Cooks and people like this off the bench, like they could have a huge impact off the bench and could help push them over the line. I would say 6 or 7 Galway.
Interesting. An interesting clip from Boris Brosnan. I'll have to watch that before, obviously, after we get off air here, obviously. Roadhouse, Peter Griffin has entered the chat. Galway should have...
Not this again, man. I can't do this.
Anyway, back to the football. Galway should have too much firepower, down essentially too reliant on Havern. Yeah, that's an interesting kind of point. Havern was absolutely superb the last day, 12 points, and I watched it with the flesh, obviously, against Cork and Park Esther. And he was absolutely superb, and he's been really, really good with the 2-pointers this year. He adds here Galway much further down the road than Down. Nice pun there. But I probably would say that as well, even though Down have really, really impressed me, especially with their 2-pointers and their goal getting this year. Sean O'Malley's commenting here. I love watching Down. They're all or nothing and have amazing footballers like Havern, Murdoch and McGuinness, along with many, many more. Gavin saying in here, I did a poll on Twitter and what's most likely to cause an upset. Down got 49%, Cork 29%, Louth 11 and Cavan 11 as well. And Peter Griffin says here, Galway by around 10, going further than you, Seamus, there. Sean Malley saying, as a GA rugby fan, Shane Walsh reminds me of Finn Russell, who on his day does amazing things, can open up a game, but equally lose through carelessness and sometimes not turn up. And Gavin saying in here, very worrying for Connacht if Galway lose and no Connacht team playing in July. Absolutely, Gavin. And a few very interesting points there. I'll have to go through. Look, I think we'll go with Peter's comments first in about the Down players. And I was going to mention Danny McGill because he's one of the top scorers who play at the moment. Peter Griffin did mention about Pat Havern being one of the main players for Down. And that's probably a right comment. But Danny McGill, I think, in Sigurdsson Cup level, in league and in championship has been absolutely superb. And whoever Galway put on him on Sunday will be very, very big to digest as well. And another thing as well about Shane Walsh and Finn Russell, it's a very, very interesting comparison. I'm a decent rugby fan myself as well. I've seen Finn Russell play for Scotland on unusual occasions as well. And on his day, I would say for anybody in the uninitiated, Finn Russell is one of the best players on a rugby pitch that you'd ever see. Like, I know a lot of people talk about Johnny Sexton in terms of 10s, potentially, coming up through the ranks, Sam Prendergast for Ireland. But Finn Russell is just a gem of a player. And Shane Walsh is probably the same in Gaelic football. But then if things go wrong, it's a very, very interesting comparison. What do you think of that, Seamus?
Yeah, it is. I think when we were saying about how the group chat, someone, who was it again, Fred Walsh is a beautiful nightmare.
Yeah.
So like, he can do amazing things, but he can also keep you up at night. And I remember, because I've, spent time living in Galway and everything like that, and, I love the county, like Salthill and everything like that. It's such a beautiful part of the world. And I've always had a soft spot for Galway, so they've always kind of been a team that I've been rooting for them to do well, unless they're playing against Dublin. Or Wexford. Wexford are my second favourite. But I always do like Galway. I'm up for them in most of the games that they play. And I remember being up for them in that quarter-final against Armagh. And I remember Shane Walsh, when all they needed to do was just run the clock out, and Walsh went for a cross-field ball off the outside of the right boot that an Armagh player intercepted. And I remember just being like, I don't know if you're happy with me cursing on your podcast, but my God, I was cursing the house down. I was like, what in the living? You just had to run that ball to the corner and see the game out. And instead you went with a cross-field ball. As the ref was about to blow the final whistle as well, Armagh got it, turned it over, and it led to the foul, which led to Rian O'Neill's free, which sent the game to the next period of play. I was like, this guy would have you tearing his hair out, because he has the ability to be a match winner, but also has that erratic streak in him. And it's like, it's like these players that are gems. It's like they have a kryptonite. Walsh's one can be sometimes erratic. Diarmuid Connolly, who in terms of how he played, I think is very, very comparable to Walsh. Like that real super stylish, so effortless off both feet. Whereas Connolly's one was just his temper. Connolly was just as likely to kick 7 points as he was to hit someone a box and get a red card. Like that was his weakness. Walsh's weakness is inconsistency and sometimes doing things that just are very low game intelligence. So, but he also has the capability to perform miracles. So he's a gem of a player, and by all of those metrics, which is why as well with Connolly, like if you see this, you've got someone like Paul Flynn, Kieran Kilkenny, like legends of Dublin football. But I guarantee if Connolly is coming on, or Flynn, Kilkenny is coming on, Dean Rock, who do you think is getting a bigger cheer? Because we as fans, we love that kind of maverick figure that doesn't quite comply.
Sure, that moment in the semi-final against that moment of the semi-final against Tyrone, I remember that.
Oh yeah.
When the fans thought it was Connolly, but it ended up being Eric Lowndes.
I was on the hill that day. And I remember because there was a group of lads beside me on the hill, and I remember them saying, "Is that Connolly? Is that Connolly? That's Connolly. That's Connolly." And they were kind of saying it as like a question to anybody around. Is that Connolly? So I turned around because I had the program in my hand. I turned around and I said, "Lads, that's not Connolly. That's Eric Lowndes." Genuinely, and this is why people might not be the biggest fans of some fans on the hill, was I said, "That's not Connolly, that's Eric Lowndes." And then the announcement went up, Eric Lowndes is coming in. And genuinely the same group of lads just went, "Who the fuck is that?" So I was like, okay. They wanted to see Connolly.
Exactly.
But yeah, we as fans just of sport in general, this isn't just a GAA thing. We love a maverick. We love someone who doesn't quite stick to the rules, who doesn't quite fit into all the boxes that other players do fit into. We love like players like a Shane Walsh, a Diarmuid Connolly, a Kieran MacDonald, like someone who's just Owen Mulligan. Owen Mulligan's another example. Someone that is just a maverick that just does things their own way. Dennis Rodman, like someone that is just outside the box, but we love them for it.
Yeah, exactly. And Shane Walsh is definitely one of those. Not in obviously
not off the pitch, but in the way he plays.
Yeah,
he's very much like kind of Kieran MacDonald, I would say.
Yeah, Kieran MacDonald, and in a good way as well, because we love Walsh's skill. Like he's an absolutely outstanding player. No doubt about it. And we probably both think Galway will win this game. I'd say a bit tighter, going to go 3 or 4 points. But an interesting point about Down before we leave this. Where's the comment now about Down? Oh yeah, from Sean O'Malley. Bearing in mind Down are missing Liam Kerr this year, and he's an excellent player. Like you know, Down have players like Danny McGill, Pat Averin, obviously Daniel Guinness there around the team as well. John McGuff, who's a brilliant goal getter of the team. Got a goal here today against Monaghan as well. Like Down are building a very, very good team under Conor Lafferty, and it's coming to fruition. I know they went down to Division 3 and probably harshly so in many ways, but like there is potential in that Down team.
Yeah, and I believe that they'll bounce straight back out of Division 3 based off the form that they're showcasing right now, especially if they can get Liam Kerr back. There's no reason to think that they won't be able to do it. We want to give that shout as well to Danny McGill, Daniel Guinness, because the two of them have been critical for Down this season. They're just road runners, both of them. They cover every blade of grass and every pitch that they play on, and they're crucial for linking defence and attack. And you know, some of the players that they brought off the bench against Monaghan showcased the depth that the squad does have. Eugene Brannigan came in off the bench, like the Club Footballer of the Year a few years ago when Kilkenny won the All-Ireland. Like, they do have strength and depth, and they're building a squad that will be able to compete for years to come. But I just think this year is just a little bit too soon. And as the comment from Peter said, Galway are further along this road, and I do expect them to win.
Exactly, and just before we leave this game, Kay Curran, another OG Maverick.
Whoa,
we could go on all night.
Kay Curran, absolutely mental. You got like people like Babs Keaton and all, like they're Mavericks. Johnny Pilkington from Offaly. Like, we could go all day, as you said.
Yeah, we could. Absolutely. We definitely could. We'll move on to the other two preliminary quarterfinals now. We'll start off with Ballybuffet, Donegal against Louth in Ballybuffet, as I said, 4 p.m. on GA+. Question here, Seamus. Louth are Leinster champions, and I don't think much people are giving them a chance. But it's more so Donegal have another gear to go up on. They didn't perform to their best last weekend. Do you give Louth any chance of this one?
I think a lot of people as well are forgetting how competitive Louth were with Donegal last year in the All-Ireland quarterfinal. Like, Louth gave a really good account of themselves. It always looked like Donegal had an answer. It always looked like Donegal would find a way to win no matter what Louth threw at them. But Louth were competitive in that game, and there was never a sense that Donegal were going to blow them away. Louth always kept answering with scores, and I remember especially some of the performances from Sam O'Roy, Tommy Dern that day were absolutely immense for Louth. They've given the impression to me that they've just been on the rip since they won the Leinster Championship. They've just, on the beach, we've won the Leinster Championship, lads. And they, because they were flat as hell in their next game. I can't remember exactly who it was against.
I guess Monaghan, yeah.
Monaghan, yeah. They were flat as hell in that game. They scored 4 goals, I think it was, but they were really reliant on them goals. And if you look over the course of the season, they haven't really scored that many points. They've scored 3 or 4 goals in the games, and they've been their saviours. But the points scoring hasn't been to the level of other teams around them. And I do think with Donegal, who don't really concede goals, especially under McGuinness, they are probably going to be a lot tighter at that defence than other teams that Louth have faced, like Meath, that are kind of willing to go punch for punch with you and see who comes out on top. Donegal will probably snuff them out in terms of their goal scoring capabilities, which could lead to a rough day at the office for them.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see this game in more ways than one. We probably both predict Donegal to win this game, but a few comments coming in here about it. Sean O'Malley saying, I think an upset could be on the cards in this game. Louth have a massive goal threat and have beasts in midfield. Donegal are relying a lot on Murphy to get them out of jail. Peter Griffin's commenting in here. Louth kind of, here we go. Louth kind of meandering along. But as they come up against stronger teams, they will really struggle. What a monumental year. They have to be more thrilled with that historic Leinster win. And Gavin saying in here, I just felt when Donegal won Ulster last year, or Derry or Galway in the provincials in 2022, they built upon the success of Louth, haven't really built upon in Leinster. And they might with a comment in here. There's no reason to suggest Louth could not win this, to be honest. And yeah, it's a very interesting game to predict it in many ways.
But no, but there is though. Like if we're going to be brutally honest, right? You tell me who's the best team Louth have beaten. I'm not saying drew with, came close to, beaten. Who's the best team they've beaten?
Well, it's either Cork or Meath.
And in my opinion, Donegal would be favourites against both of them. So we have to look at that.
Well, Cork beat Donegal last year. Just putting that out there.
Correct. But right now, I feel Donegal are one of the front runners for the All Ireland, and I feel like if Louth are to beat Donegal, back-to-back Ulster champions, who, rightly so, they're capable. Yeah, they're capable for sure. But in my opinion, it's like this type of thing where Louth have won Leinster. And I just want to say sorry to Cavan for this reference, but I remember year on year seeing Roscommon win Connacht and people talking them up for winning the All-Ireland, and they didn't beat a team that was considered All-Ireland contenders.
Mm.
They just didn't. They didn't beat a Donegal, a Dublin, a Kerry. It didn't happen. Louth are yet to break through that glass ceiling too. And I just feel like Donegal will be too much for them.
Yeah. I'd probably go for Donegal to win this game as well. But it's worth noting, Louth, what an incredible year. And
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing year. You can't, not just this day as well, because we have to take this in consideration. It's not just this year. It's starting in Division 4 under Mickey Hart. back-to-back promotions. Ger Brennan then takes the wheel, keeps them in Division 2, stabilises them in Division 2, gets them back into a Leinster final. They come so close to Dublin, then gets them back into another Leinster final, and they beat me. They took the day. They carped that DM. They literally grabbed the opportunity by the scruff of the neck and did it. Won Leinster for the first time since 1957. That achievement, in my opinion, is achievement of the year already in Gaelic football. No question about it. So, in my opinion, it's just this next step, when you've achieved something monumental like winning Leinster, seeing how they've been kind of sleepwalking a little bit in some of the games tells me that they're more or less content with what they've achieved this year. I don't think they're going for the All-Ireland. And Donegal definitely are going for the All-Ireland. So I think Louth will give a good account of themselves, especially in the first half. But I can see Donegal opening up a bit of a gap in the second half. And I see it finishing a 10-point win for Donegal.
Yeah, I'd probably go for Donegal to win this game as well. But
Sorry, just a reason why is because Donegal will snuff out the goals. Louth will not get 3-4 goals in this game. And then when you look at the point scoring that they've been doing, it is not on the level to beat Donegal.
Yeah, exactly. And Gavin would have commented here in relation to your comment about Roscommon there. My only counterpoint to Seamus that Roscommon team had to play Donegal, Tyrone, Mayo and Jim Gavin's Dublin in either 17 or 19 when we won Connacht. I think Louth's pack this year was way easier. Respond.
Correct. Very good point. Like, you've got Donegal under Declan Bonner, who won 3 Ulsters in a row. You've got Tyrone, who reached the All-Ireland final in 2018. And then you've got Dublin, who you would consider as one of, if not the greatest team of all time. To say, though, that Louth's route is easier, like a lot easier, the Tyrone team of 2018 or the Donegal team of this year? I know that, sorry, that was in a group, wasn't it? That was when the group stages were still there.
It was the group stages, the Super 8s, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember them. Yeah. Thank God we got rid of them. Yeah, no, that was... Roscommon got done dirty there, to be honest. But still, the standard was really, really high with all of those teams. But it's not even that Roscommon lost. If I'm remembering correctly, they did get beaten out the gate in quite a few of those games. So I'm just saying the provincial championship it's a different kettle of fish. It's a different competition.
Commentator.
I would agree with that.
That's a good comment there, but Sean, the competition is nowhere near what it was then.
Back then, you would have said
it was Dublin, Kerry.
Teams. Yeah.
But now
you're saying like 7
open
or 8.
Season. Yeah.
Like, realistically, these are the teams that I realistically think could win the All-Ireland when this season is finished. Realistically. Cork, Kerry, Dublin, Tyrone, Armagh, Donegal, Galway. Like, that's off the top of the dome. We're on 7 already. Like, Monaghan, Meath. Like,
you have to come Monaghan and Meath, yeah.
So, but this is because we've watched them put it up to teams that we would consider front runners. So, all things considered, I've just seen with Louth that I don't see the same hunger in them that Donegal have. I think Louth getting over the line in a Leinster Championship, I feel like that might have been what the goal was this year.
Yeah, and they achieved that goal in spades. Yeah,
winning Ulster, as awesome as it was, Jimmy wants the All-Ireland.
Yeah, exactly. So Sean is saying here, only 3 teams could realistically compete for Sam. Sean, I'd love to get your thoughts on who you're saying there. But the last preliminary quarterfinal, and to be honest, Seamus, Kerry against Cavan in Kildare, Fitzgerald Stadium, Kildare, Saturday at 3:30 on GA+. With the greatest of respect to Cavan, they have the highest average concession rate in the championship out of the 16 teams. They have the lowest scoring rate out of any of the championship teams as well. They're going down to Kildare to face Kerry in a 6-day third round after getting hammered by Tyrone. I don't care. Paddy Clifford's not playing for Kerry, but you have to say Kerry will be too strong here. Shouldn't they? They should be too strong, shouldn't they?
Yeah. No, I can't see anything other than a Kerry win in this. I really think just Cavan's, because on top of that, like what John was saying on the pod as well with Gerard McKeon, and that we don't think Gerard McKeon is going to be playing in this either. He hasn't really featured for Cavan since the kind of early stages of the league. Yeah, I didn't actually read Darragh O'Shea's.
I didn't read it, no, but I believe it. I believe that comment to be her.
Would Darragh be one for taking shots?
Oh, I think so, yeah. Any kind of former player kind of would. Like, I remember, to be fair, remember after Cork beat Kerry in 2020, and Tomas O'Shea had the Sunday game afterwards.
What did he say?
He said that was the worst Kerry performance that I've seen since losing the 2001 All-Ireland game to Meath. And Kerry were shambolic from the word go. That's what he said.
Well, they were, no?
Yeah. They were, yeah, but like,
they were awful that day. Like, even when it looked like they were going to get over the line, I was like, this is still an embarrassing performance. Up until the Markeen goal, I was like, how are Kerry getting away with this? How genuinely, you might have been thinking different. I was thinking before the Markeen goal, I remember thinking, how are Cork letting Kerry get away with this? How are Cork letting them get away with being so bad? Do you remember? Because I was watching the game right here on this telly. I was sitting on this couch. I was watching the telly right here. And Sean Meehan ran with the ball, mazy through, and all of a sudden found himself in a position where he could shoot, and he didn't. And I remember he hand passed it off. And I remember being like screaming at the telly. I remember being like, shoot. Like, what? And then it got back out to Luke Connolly, and Luke Connolly just had it immediately. Didn't even look at the posts. And then somehow dropped to Markeen, bang, back of the net. And I remember thinking, well, to be honest, that game should have gone to penalties because Sean Meehan should have kicked that over the bar. But Kerry were about to get away with murder that day. But yeah, Tomas let them have it in the post-match, it seems.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, Peter was asking, what do you make of these comments? But as we both said, we didn't see the paper article. Darragh essentially arguing Kerry want out now. That's the case. Wow, that's quite a comment. Yeah, Sean O'Malley saying here, people would say Donegal are our favourites, but I feel like similarities of 2010, I think could be out of nowhere like Cork back then. I wouldn't say Cork were out of nowhere there, Sean. They were the best team in 2009, but anyway, Peter saying here, sounds like a Yara. Gavin is saying here, I might have left the comments. Raymond might leave Cavan this year or next year. They're just frustrated to make one step forward, 2 steps back. That's on Cavan, obviously. We're both predicting Kerry to win that game. But did you read that, Seamus?
Yeah, so the headline is, I clicked into the Irish Times and I got hit with this prompt of become a member, which but the title is, there's an air of finality around Kerry after lose. So there's an air of finality around Kerry after losing to Meath. So top line, in Kerry, there's a sense of finality about the place this week. When it comes to football, you can't fool people down here. So I think basically he's saying that Kerry basically, what I'm taking from that is that he's saying that Kerry are kind of done with the year after the Meath game.
Which is what Peter said there, to be fair, the comments. So
I still think I still think they'll get through the Cavan game, because I think Cavan are kind of on the same boat. Like, Cavan going to want the year 10 too.
Yeah, that's the thing. To be fair, yeah, it's a difficult one for Cavan, but yeah, Kerry should win that game. So that is the preliminary quarterfinals, all predicted. We'll get a comment in here. Gavin is saying here, Cavan have really tough groups over the last 2 years. Is the only thing. Hope they get more Division 2 teams in the next championship, and hopefully for Raymond Gallagher's sake, that'll be the case. Looking at the Halton Cup semi-finals now, and both are on RT2 in Croke Park this Sunday, as usual. The main one probably is Kildare against Fermanagh, obviously at 4 p.m. this Sunday. This is a difficult one to call, considering Fermanagh are doing what we've asked of them throughout the years of this podcast. They're taking the competition seriously, and they're doing well in this competition. Even though, having said that, you would imagine Kildare will be favourites for this one. Alex Bird is kicking scores for fun. Daniel Flynn is doing brilliant open attack as well. James McGrath scored a brilliant goal the last day against Offaly. You would think Kildare have their mojo, and you would think Kildare will get over the line.
Yeah, I'd make Kildare favourites for this, but Fermanagh will really, really put it up to them. Fermanagh have absolutely superb players. You're talking about Darren McGurn there in midfield. You're talking about Ryan Lyons. You're talking about inside forwards like Conor Love. They've absolutely superb footballers in their ranks. Yeah, you're right. It was a bit of a coming of age performance against Sligo in that quarter final. But it was a bit of a coming of age performance against Sligo in that quarter final. They were really, really good, fully deserving of that win. And all this without Ulton Kelm as well, who I thought over the past few seasons was probably their best player. So, look, they've really been taking steps in the right direction. Kieran Donnelly there as manager is not only a fantastic coach, but an absolute gentleman. I've had the pleasure of meeting him a few times. So I'm really rooting for them. I really want Kieran and Fermanagh to win, to be honest. We're just going to come out and say I want them to win the whole thing. When you meet someone and they're really sound to you, you do want them to have success after all. And Kildare have been moving along really well, though, so they will have their work cut out for them, and it will be a really, really difficult opponent. Alex Byrne kicking 7 points the last day looked $1 million for them. And Daniel Flynn back in the lineup. If Daniel Flynn can even recoup half the form that we've seen from him over the last 10 years, he will be a really, really big threat for Fermanagh. He's the type of flair player that could do huge damage, especially in Croke Park with the big open spaces. So I think one massive thing in Kildare's favour, massive thing, is their experience playing in Croke Park. They have that over Fermanagh. They've played in Croke Park more. They're more familiar with the dimensions, with the pitch size, with shooting into the Hill 16 goal. One thing that a lot of players say about the Hill 16 goal is that managers, Richie Hogan said this, that managers tell you to hit harder than you think you need to, because the goals are always deceptively far away. So we see teams that go to Croke Park, and there's little things like that make them have a slow start, little things like that can make them a bit slow out the blocks. And if Kildare can really punish them early doors, it could be Kildare's game to lose. And I think I'd probably nudge it to Kildare based off what I've seen so far this season, but I want Fermanagh to win.
Say it quietly. Yeah, I would say Kildare will go on and win this game. I don't have a favourite, just putting that out there, lads. Either side, I don't mind.
That's just because I've met Kieran. That's just because I've met him. If I met Brian Flanagan tomorrow and he was a gent, then I'd be torn. I wouldn't know who I'd want to win there. And I'd say he is. He seems like a lovely, lovely guy.
Yeah, Peter saying here, Kildare by 5 or 6, and Liam. Come on, Seamus. Okay, so we'll both particularly Kildare, but Seamus wants Fermanagh to win. We'll move on to the other Tailteann Cups. We'll move on to the other Tailteann Cup semi-final. It is Limerick against Wicklow at 2 p.m. on Sunday on RT. Limerick against Wicklow on Sunday at 2 p.m. live.
You sure?
Did I say? I don't know, to be honest. Anyway, we have to move on. Limerick against Wicklow on Sunday at 2 p.m. live on RT2 from Croke Park. This, Seamus talked about favourites there in the last semi-final. I am torn on this one because Limerick, I used to obviously write about them on the Limerick Voice when I was up at UL with college work and things like that. And I have huge respect for the Limerick footballers. I hope they do well as a proud Munster man, obviously. But Wicklow's players, like the likes of Owen Darcy and all them, they're so sound as well. On DMs and things like that. So equally, I have a Wicklow jersey and a Limerick jersey at home, so I'm genuinely torn on who I want to win this game. Who will win this game, though? I think Limerick might edge it. But what do you think, Seamus?
How about we make an agreement, right? Whoever wins, you wear the jersey on the pod next time.
Yeah, that's a good deal, yeah. Wait. If Limerick win the hurling, I don't know.
What do you mean?
If Limerick beat Dublin at the weekend and they're still in the championship,
we could make that actually. If Dublin and Cork Dublin beat Cork, you wear a Dublin jersey. If Cork beat Dublin, I'll wear a Cork jersey. We could make that deal.
Going sidetracked on this game, but yeah, on a side note, deal. Let's go.
Okay. All right. We
Right.
can get that sorted.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Anyway, this game, who do you think will win this?
Yes. Back to this game. Limerick Wicklow, Tailteann Cup semi-final. Two teams that have been absolutely fantastic and had amazing wins in the quarter-final. I think Wicklow's one probably stood out more. Especially like Dean Healy there, you mentioned about him being interviewed by Woolley, but like that 2-pointer that he kicked at the buzzer beater was just absolutely extraordinary stuff. And Westmeath were such obvious picks to potentially win the Tailteann Cup. I mean, they are the inaugural winners. Their performances in Division 2 have been amazing. Luke Loughlin's form was among the best in the country. And for Wicklow to beat them was absolutely immense, unbelievable win. And their performances throughout the championship have been really, really good. Against Dublin, they were fantastic. Really, really did themselves proud that day. And then since then in the Tailteann Cup, they've been really, really solid. And the victory over Westmeath was the capstone of the best performance they've had so far this year. Semi-final against Limerick, it's difficult to pick because Limerick, I feel like Limerick are solid. Like it's a really, really hard one to look at because Limerick in that Division 4 final against Wexford, they were just really well put together. Darrow Shukru was really, really good. Tommy Childs was really, really good. Killian Fahy. And then they're doing all this without the likes of Keane Sheehan, Brian Donovan. Like they're big players for them. And then you look forward as well. Some of the players they have in the squad that they can bring in, the likes of James Naughton, Danny Neville. Like these players are fantastic. Josh Ryan, really, really solid keeper as well. Limerick are very well put together. Wicklow, I feel like, are a little bit more flair. Like I feel like I don't know. It's like I'm looking at it. It's like if this was a boxing match, it's like Wicklow are a boxer that has really flash skills and can knock someone out quickly, and it's like Limerick are one that just do the fundamentals well.
Yeah.
And I feel like Limerick are going to shade this. I feel like Limerick by a couple of points. That's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Limerick to win this game as well, but we'll see what happens in the Tailteann Cup semi-finals. We'll move on to the LGFA now, and obviously there's 4 knockout games in the Senior Championship, so we'll go group by group in these games. So we'll start off with Group 1, and it is Tipperary against Donegal in Tipperary on Saturday at 1 p.m. live on TG Car. So this is a crucial game in Group 1, obviously, because Galway topped this group over the hills and far away into the quarterfinals. So Tipperary and Donegal are both on 0 points, both on a score difference as well of -9. So very interesting. But Tipperary have scored 7 and Donegal have only scored 1-2. So that means Tipperary are ahead. So a draw will be enough for Tipperary to progress to the All-Ireland quarterfinals. But Tipperary at home, Seamus, we said this at your pod earlier the week, that we fancy Tip to win this, especially being at home and performing much better than Donegal, and have Ashley Maloney, the team, obviously, who's scoring for fun in that Tipperary side. What do you think now?
Yeah, like, I mean, just first things first, like, it's a massive weekend in the LGFA, all knockout games, all games where someone who is playing is going to go out of the championship. And that's championship football at its best. It's what we want to see. Speaking first on the Tipperary versus Donegal game, Tipperary having home advantage is massive. Both sides were on the wrong end of 9-point defeats, as we were saying, to Galway, who are just on a train right now. Like 13 wins in a row, Galway are in fine fettle. So I really, really do believe Tip have enough to get over the line in this. So I think when you look at Donegal, they're a little bit more in transition right now. Key players have left over the past few years. Like the standout ones are obviously Niamh McLaughlin, Yvonne Bonner. Like these players aren't around anymore from the team under Maxi Curran in like 2019, 2020. The squad has changed a lot. So I feel like they're in a little bit of a transition phase. And you look at Tipperary, then they still have big hitters there like Aisling Maloney, like Anna Rose Kennedy. And especially with home advantage, I think Tip will probably shade it. So I think in a very, very competitive game, I'll go with Tip to shade it by 2.
Yeah, I'm going to say Tip will win that game as well. Another knockout game, and it is a brilliant weekend in the AGFA. Seamus mentioned there. Group 2, also live on TG Car TV on Saturday at 3 p.m. in Castlebar. It is Mayo against Cork. The Tip and Galway, or Tip and Donegal game, just for anybody that's interested, the game is on in Bancha in Tipperary. Just a note there. But in terms of this game, Mayo against Cork in Castlebar in Hastings Insurance McCain Park on 3 p.m. on Saturday live on TG Car. Again, this is a knockout game, but Mayo have a slightly better scoring difference on -6 compared to Cork's -7. So by my calculations, Cork will be out of the championship if they even draw this game. They have to win this game. Joe Carroll's side have to do it. Mayo, a draw be enough for them. This is a very tight game to call, Seamus, especially considering Cork played their football in Division 2 this year. Obviously, robbed their way out of it, but Division 2 is a lower standard. Mayo got relegated from Division 1. And have been very reliant on Sinead Walsh all season long, whereas Cork, with the likes of Katie Quirk, Laura Manny, Ollie Terry, O'Sullivan, recent weeks, really ticking them along. But who do you fancy in this one?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. Mayo Cork is a really interesting one then, because you're trying to look at it through the Mayo perspective of the fact that they're going into this game knowing that a draw is enough. Like for Liam McHale, how do you make sure that your players kind of don't play off the pretense of, well, a draw is enough for us? Like they need to just go out and focus on, let's just win this game of Gaelic football. Because if you're playing for a draw, it's a really, really dangerous game to play, especially when Cork have the forwards that they have, the likes of Katie Quirk, the likes of Laura O'Mahony, like that have been flying it this season for Cork. The defeat to Kerry was a rough day for the backs for Cork, conceding 5 goals, but their forward line still put up a healthy tally. And on another day, their defence will hold more firm. And Cork are showing then at the other end that they have the capability to put up big tallies. Whereas Mayo have been consistently too reliant on Walsh throughout the championship. She has been the one doing the heavy lifting throughout most of their games. And especially in that game against Kerry, I think she scored 1-3 out of their 1-4 or something ridiculous like that. So definitely Cork there's one obvious target that Cork need to shut down in the Mayo forward line. And for Mayo, they need to shut down Quirk. They need to shut down Hannah Looney. They need to shut down Anya Sullivan. They need to shut down Laura O'Mahony. Like there's a lot of threats that Cork possess. And I think that fact and their experience of the big days in the semi-finals, etc., and, the Division 2 final, obviously this year, I think will be enough. I think Cork will probably shade this. Narrowly, though, I think Cork by 2.
Yeah, I think Cork will win this game as well. They just have more firepower up front than Mayo this season. Look at Group 3, Armagh against Kildare. This is in the Box Athletic Grounds on Saturday at 2 p.m. live on the TG Car YouTube channel. So the situation is here, a draw being enough for Armagh. Kildare have to win this game. Considering Armagh are Ulster champions, they were Division 1 final. You would expect Armagh to win, but can Kildare put up a test here?
This would have the potential for Kildare to be a really breakout performance, because going away to an Armagh side who I think are one of the front runners for the All-Ireland, especially if Amy Mackin is back fit. There's rumours, I've seen it on the Women's Gaelic Football Instagram page, which obviously is doing tremendous work. I've seen it on that page about, rumours about Amy Mackin returning. And if she can return and be even 80% of, the talent that she got to in previous years, then Armagh get a massive turbo boost in terms of potentially winning the All-Ireland. Like you look at Kildare against Meath in that game, it was really, really competitive. The conditions were awful. And Kildare were right in there in the fire with Meath throughout the entire game. It was just Meath's experience going down the home stretch. Emma Duggan hit 5 points for Meath that day. And Marion Farrelly hit the other 2. Like Meath only had 2 scorers, but it was just purely their know-how, their experience of big days and getting over the line to get big results that got Meath over the line that day. And Kildare should take a lot from that game, because skill-wise, they were right there against Meath, who've been there, done it, and got the T-shirt twice, back-to-back All-Ireland wins. So Kildare should take a lot from that Meath game. They should take a lot from it. And going in against Armagh, they should take a lot of confidence from the Meath game into that. I just think Armagh, though, are a little bit higher than Meath and Kildare. I know that Armagh and Meath drew, but that was Meath snatching a last-minute draw when Meath had a home advantage. Armagh went away to them. They were without Amy Mackin. If Amy Mackin is back fit, I think Armagh win that game. I think Armagh, at home especially, I think they'll have too much firepower for Kildare. You look at the form of the likes of Niamh Coleman, Blaheen Mackin, Kelly Mallon. Like, They have a lot of danger, and Aoife McCoy as well is in unbelievable form. 2 goals in the Ulster final, outrageous individual display. I think Armagh they'll hit a couple of goals, and then I think that will be just too much for Kildare.
Yeah, I think Armagh will go on and win this game as well, but Kildare have performed admirably in some of the games this year, but I'm going to go for Armagh to win this game. It'll be interesting if Amy Mackin is fit. Will she play this weekend? Look at the final game. It is Group 4. It is Leitrim against Waterford in Avant Card, I think it is. Park Sean McDermott.
Oh, we've got another one. Liam, I hope you're watching.
Jeez, sponsorships, man.
Zimmer Boy and Mac Part 2.
Look, we'll have to. It's here anyway. This game is on in Carrick Shannon Park.
Sponsors the stadiums, man. I literally. I don't think I would said Super Value Parking Queen on An Cluiche.
I've always said it, yeah. Look, the game itself, right? Leitrim against Waterford in Carrick on Shannon on Saturday at 2 p.m. in TG Car. On TG Car YouTube, obviously. So the situation of this is Waterford drew against Dublin, so it means that Waterford, a draw will be enough for them to get through. Leitrim have to win the game. With the greatest respect to Leitrim, Seamus, you would expect Waterford to get through.
Yeah, you would. I mean, having seen Dublin's games, it's a good way to go about. I know that, Gaelic games maths doesn't always add up, but I mean, if you look at Dublin and how lucky we were to get out of Waterford, get out of Dungarvan with a draw, compared then to 8-18 to 7 points against Leitrim, I mean, you'd be mad to predict anything other than a comfortable Waterford win. And that was my last point. I was just going to ask him, actually, could you remind me, where is the game being played?
Park Sean McDermott, Carrick.
Okay. You sure there's not a sponsor?
I'm not going to try to be. I'll try and go on to Scorpio and I'll try pronounce it now. Right. Park Sean McDermott, Scorpio doesn't have to sponsor either. Come on, no.
Oh, God. Wait, let me look it up. Is it Avant Card?
Avant Card, I think it is.
Avant Card, yeah, you have it here. That's not as hard as Zimmer Boy. And you say that.
No, sorry, I got confused. It's Avant Money.
Avant
Money, Park Sean McDermott. That's
if they want me to say that, they can give me some of that money. Is it Avant Money?
I'm reading here from the official LGFA Instagram. It says Avant Money Park Sean McDermott. That's what it says.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Avant Money.
So there we go. That's it. But sponsors and podcasts are going to kill me, man. Seriously, like it's got overboard now at this stage. But in the LGFA as well,
in trouble, then me and Aaron are fucked. Me and Aaron got 3 years live be there.
Anyway, in the LGFA, the other games, by the way, I think Waterford win the game as well against Leitrim. This should be too strong with the likes of Brie McMahon and Kellyanne Hogan and Laura McGregor, especially in very good form. In the LGFA as well, in the Junior Championship in Group A, you have Sligo against Limerick at 1 p.m. on Sunday, and you have Derry against Louth on Sunday at 2 p.m. And also Group B in the Junior Championship, you have London against Longford at 6 p.m. on Saturday. So that is the LGFA wrapped up this weekend. So we'll move on to the hurling now, and we have 2 All-Ireland quarterfinals to look at. The first game in T West, Gaelic Grounds in Limerick, Galway against Tipperary on Saturday at 6:15 p.m. It is live on RT2 as well. I think the main question in this, Seamus, is what sort of Galway will turn up? Because if it's a Galway that will turn up and not be consistent, then you would imagine tips should roll all over them. But if it's a Galway that turn up and produce a good performance and play low ball into their full forwards, which they are capable of, we could have a game.
Yeah, and I think like the Leinster final with Galway kind of epitomised, why we're so unsure about them, because watching the start of the second half.
The thing is, just before we get into this game, James, it's Glennis O'Connor Park.
There you go.
So
Liam should know that.
Yeah. Liam, you run awfully, man. Come on now.
And Liam, the Offaly County Board know where you live, so don't think the Glennis don't know where you live.
Anyway, back to the game.
He works for Midland Radio. He works for Midland. Okay, yeah, no, Peter's right there talking about, I mean, the pedigree of Galway Tip over the last 10 years is just, especially the last 10 years, has been absolutely off the scale. You think of Joe Canning's winner in 2017, you think of the clash in 2016 was absolutely off the scale. You think of Paddy Marr's hit on Joe Canning that was featured in his Lerker Gale, one of the most iconic moments in hurling in the 21st century. Like, that hit was extraordinary. Tip Galway 2010, I think, as well, was another cracking semi-final. Like that, they always produce unbelievable games against each other. And then Galway have produced surprise victories against Tip over the last couple of years when nobody expected. The last time they clashed, Tip were raging hot favourites and Galway turned them over. So, I mean, are they capable of doing it? Yes, they are capable of doing it. Cathal Mannion is in the form of his life in the season where Galway are as unpredictable as they've ever been. But please, for the love of God, put Conor Whelan in the forward line. If I see Conor Whelan sweeping up ball around the midfield like he's a workhorse and not a superb inside full forward, which he is, then clearly Galway aren't learning the lesson. Definition of madness again. They were so bad in that third quarter. So bad. And then all of a sudden, they get the goal from Concannon. And you're sitting there looking at telly thinking, where on earth was this? How did you come out in the second half so flat? How did you come out in the second half and just have no effort, no fight, until all of a sudden you did? And I think with Donoghue, get that consistency, get that effort out of the players. And players as well on the field. Because this is the other thing, you'll always look to Donoghue. And, you know, as manager that he should be the one. But there's a lot of experienced heads in that Galway team. Mannion has been around since 2015. Conor Whelan has been around since not that long after. Daithí Burke, David Burke. These lads are so experienced. They don't need Micheál Donoghue to tell them what to do. They know what to do. So next time, they cannot allow the performances to drop the way that they did in the third quarter of the Leinster final. Because if they do, the one thing that Tip have shown flair. Tip have shown goal-scoring hunger. And if Galway drop off with the form that the likes of Darren McCarthy is in, the likes of Jake Morris is in, the likes of Andrew Ormond is in, they could rip Galway apart if Galway are lagging for any stage of the game. And I think Tip, the way that Tip are playing this year, Kilkenny were quite happy to tap over the points, death by 1,000 cuts, but I think Tip would go for goal. And I really think Tip could do damage if Galway are lacking. I think over the last couple of years, we saw that with Galway, that they were capable of turning over Tip when they were unexpected to do that. I just think this year they've been too inconsistent. And I think Tip have been really good, apart from the Galway game where they were kind of shot in the leg before the competition started. I think Tip win.
Yeah, I'd probably go for Tip as well to win this game. And the likes of John McGrath, Andrew Ormonds, they've performed really, really well for Tipperary. And you would say, by common sense, Tipperary have performed better than Galway, so you would back them to win this game. In many ways, Peter was saying here, Galway's massive Achilles heel is goalkeeping. I think Darragh Fahy is back for this game, though. Surely it's just a one-match ban, so he probably will be back this weekend. But we'll have to see how that all plays out. But in terms of, we're both predicting a Tip win. But if Tip, is there any way Tip don't win? I think the way the Tip don't win is genuinely if they don't turn up, which has happened under Liam Cahill before against the same opposition 2 years ago.
Sorry.
I was saying that the Galway Tip game 2 years ago, Tip didn't show up. That could easily happen again.
Yeah, I mean, Tip that year, that was kind of one of the things that strengthened the whole theory about Liam Cahill's team burning out, was they were really off it that day and Galway completely caught them on the hop. I just feel like Galway have been too inconsistent this year. Galway were a little bit more consistent 2023. I know it was the kind of coming towards the end of the Shefflin era, but they were a little bit more consistent in 2023. Remember that year they should have won Leinster? That was the year where Killian Buckley hit the goal with like seconds left, literally the last puck of the game. So Galway were a lot better that year in terms of consistency. So I think that has to be taken into consideration. Galway were probably more consistent than Tip were probably more inconsistent that year over the course of the entire year. And I think now the roles have somewhat reversed think Tipperary will shade it.
Yeah, I think Tip will win this game as well, but we'll have to see what happens in the TUS Gaelic rounds this weekend. Liam is saying here about sponsors. Glenelg is not compared to Clare's. Shades thrown there. But we will see what happens in the Galway Tip game. Clare's, they used to be like a sponsor of Offaly's in the 90s.
No, I think he was asking about Clare's stadium sponsor.
Oh, Clare's. Oh, sorry. Zimmer Boymet. Going for interesting prediction there from Peter, going for a draw there. Genuinely, I thought Clare's was a sponsor of Offaly
anymore.
No, exactly. But we'll see what happens.
Fence is gone. You can't sit in the fence anymore.
Exactly. But we'll move on to the other game in Croke Park, as well as the Cork and Dublin game, obviously, in the preliminary football quarterfinal. The quarterfinal of the Hurley Championship, Dublin against Limerick. This game is on at 4 p.m. on Saturday, live on RT2. It is, I was looking at social media just briefly today, and the last championship meeting between these sides, not league, championship meeting between the two sides, who won that game? Dublin won.
And the one before, who won the one before?
Dublin.
Mm-hmm. I believe the last three. I believe we've won the last three.
Is that an omen?
I know we beat them in 2009.
Yeah.
I know we beat them in 2011. And I know we beat them in 2015.
The one I remember 2015, or Dottie O'Callaghan turned into TJ Reid.
Yeah. 2011 as well. I remember Maurice O'Brien played for us, because I remember Maurice O'Brien was actually from Limerick.
Jeez, those were good times. Great days, but will there be another great day in Croke Park this Saturday?
I mean, obviously we're massive underdogs in this game. Like, if you look at it, like, I was there for the league clash between Dublin and Limerick in the league last year. I was working for Dublin GA that day, and I was doing the live tweets. So you can imagine the pain. Like how many times it was just point for Limerick, point for Limerick, point for Limerick. 330 they scored that day against us. Like, it really was a humbling experience. It was like, wow, this is the level. Limerick have taken the game to a new level since those days where Dublin beat them in 2015 and 2011. Like, since they found their mojo in 2018 under Kiley and won that All-Ireland, broke through the glass ceiling, they've been just something that we have rarely seen across Gaelic games. They've been absolutely extraordinary. And Dublin, just throughout the championship, because Limerick kept winning Munster, we were kept away from them. And Cork now beating Limerick on penalties has sent them right into our path. Look, we're massive underdogs. We're a team in transition. There's no question about that too. Neil O'Callaghan has come in. It's his first year as manager. He is going to be, moulding the team in his image, and this is his first year in doing that. So the reality is Dublin have nothing to lose in this game. We have nothing to lose. We're playing in Croke Park. Limerick, ironically, have more experience playing in Croke Park than we do. So, and our experiences of playing in Croke Park over the last 2 years have not been pleasant. We've been battered twice in Croke Park last year by Limerick.
Just a minute, though, Seamus. Just a minute. The Fina beat SARS in Croke Park.
That literally has no relevance to this game, I would argue. Like, Nafina won. But that's what?
The same manager with 7 players.
The 7 players from Nafina. I'd be surprised if 7 players from Nafina start.
True, yeah.
I don't think that would be the case. I think AJ will start. Donald Burke will start. One of the Currys will start.
AJ is actually not starting, Seamus.
Okay, who's starting? From the
just a live a team announcement. This team was announced an hour ago. At Dublin and Limerick. So Sean Brennan in goal, John Bellew, Paddy Smith, Conor McHugh in the full back line. Paddy Doyle, Chris Crummy, Andrew Dunphy in the half back line. Conor Burke and Brian Hayes in midfield, Rian McBride, Fergal Whiteley and Cian O'Sullivan in the half forward line, and Sean Curry, Ronan Hayes and Dermot O'Dooling in the full forward line.
No Donald Burke?
No, it doesn't say it. And is he on the bench? He is number 17.
Okay, well, he has to start. He has to start if he's fit. But that's only 2 Nafina players. So the experience of playing in Croke Park, Limerick have won All Irelands there. And even
3 on the bench.
year,
3 defeated players on the bench. Donald Burke, Colin Curry and Asia.
I think they'll all come on. I think they'll probably all come on. But I really, really do believe like the experience is fully with Limerick of playing in Croke Park. And not just playing in Croke Park, but playing big games in Croke Park. All-Ireland finals, All-Ireland semi-finals, and having great days out in Croke Park. Dublin's track record over the last year in Croke Park from a hurling side, we've had 2 games there and we've been beaten handy twice. So our better days are against Galway in Croke Park. We beat them there and drew with them there. But this one is an all too different task. This is a really, really different task. We're playing against probably the greatest team of all time. Like that's so that we're well aware of the task that is ahead of us. We're underdogs, we've got nothing to lose. Obviously, my head says that we're going to lose, but my heart says that we can give a good account of ourselves. Like I look at last year and I know that there was a bug in the Cork camp, but we did bloody up Cork's nose a bit going down the home stretch, and definitely Pat Ryan wouldn't have been thrilled with how that game went. And we have shocked teams in the past, like Galway. But I feel this one is too far. I feel like Limerick will win this by about 8.
Yeah, I'm going to say Limerick will win comfortably as well. But even look at Dublin's bench is quite interesting because you have obviously the Navina boys and you have John Henderson on the bench as well. Is that a master plan from Neil O'Callaghan?
I think Hedjo has to start. I think Hedjo has to start because Hedjo he's such a big man that he could offer them a very, very different threat than what they've got from any other team, to be honest. He's very much kind of an Aaron Shanahan type. That he's just such a presence in there that Dublin could fire a ball in on top of him. Because if Dublin are going to win this game, we need like 4 goals. Because Limerick will outpoint us.
Yeah.
They can hit points from basically anywhere. We will need to score more goals in them. Like, I would be happy in this game if I saw Dublin really put it up to Limerick for 60, 65 minutes. If we could really put it up to them and showcase that we're building something good there. Because the reality is this is what we were talking about. Over the last 10 years, our seasons have usually gone very similar. We've usually finished 3rd or lost the Leinster final, and then we've gone out in the quarterfinal to whoever came out of Munster there. And that thing of if you do what you always do, you get what you always got. So I, as a Dublin fan, I'm happy if this team takes a step back to take 10 steps forward. If we need to take a step back this year to rebuild the team and get ready to go for 5 years, then that's what needs to be done. And that's what Neil O'Callaghan has done. There's a lot of big players over the last 2 years, like Danny Sutcliffe and stuff like that, that haven't been as integral to the team this year as they've been in previous years. He's building the team around a younger core, the likes of Keane O'Sullivan, the likes of Conor Burke, the likes of Brian Hayes, that are going to be around for years to come, hopefully. So yeah, if I see a good fight from Dublin for 60 minutes, 65 minutes, and we really put it up to them and we showcase what we're capable of, because we have some fantastic hurlers, Limerick will put the burners on at some point and open up a bit of a gap, I imagine. But if we showcase what we're capable of, and I leave Croke Park there thinking, do you know what? There's a bit of hope for that team. We just need to give O'Callaghan more time with these lads. There's pedigree there. There's success there at minor level. There's success there at under 20 level. There's stuff to build on. But it's a massive task. I think Limerick will win by about 8 points. But I think we can do ourselves proud.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Dublin will put up a test, but I think Limerick will edge it out in the end. Look at the Camogie to end the podcast. And look at Group 1, first of all, the Senior Championship. We are coming down the home stretch in this championship now.
It's 4 minutes till we go delusional, man.
Yeah. Let's get through this and we'll talk about delusion in a sec. On to the Camogie in Group 1. So we have Limerick against Tipperary. This game is on in Cappamore at 1 p.m. on Saturday. I don't know why this could be a doubleheader with the Galway and Tip game in the men's, but look, sense doesn't prevail, obviously. And look at the other Group 1 game, Cork against Clare in Super Valley Park Keeve on Saturday at 2 p.m. on Saturday, obviously. So the situation in this group: Cork were 6 points after 2 games. Limerick or Clare in second place with 4 points after 2 games. Limerick, this is their last game of the weekend, obviously their last game of the weekend, but their last game of the group stage, because they played 3 games, they will play 4 by the end of this weekend. So this is their last game, so they probably have to win against Tipperary to stand any chance, especially with Tip in 4th place on 3 points. And you would imagine when Wexford are bottom already, even mathematically, they're bottom already on 0 points. Tipper on 3 points. So that's not good from a Wexford point of view. If in all seriousness there, I think Wexford are en route for relegation playoff there. You would expect Cork to beat Clare. Limerick and Tip is an interesting game in its own right. They're just a point on the Cork and Clare game, because we didn't get to it obviously with the Mayo Cork game being such an important game in the LGFA. But Hannah Looney, Libby Coppinger and Aoife Healy will all play for the LGFA team because of the importance of that game. Obviously, it's a winner-bust game for the LGFA team. But those games are on the same day again, Seamus. Like, it's not worth putting up a post on these, if in all honesty, because we've had this situation year in, year out, 2023, 2022, 2024, and now 2025 again. Why are these players treated with respect, really? It's ridiculous.
No, it is ridiculous, and there's an answer to that. They're separate associations, and they don't cooperate. They put the games on when they want to put the games on. They don't really consider the needs of 3, 4, or 5 dual players. They don't really care about that. We want to play the game at this time in this location, and then the other association says, well, we want to play the game at this time in this location, and therefore one of them will either have to take a step back, or we end up in this ridiculous situation where neither of them are willing to yield. And that's why with the integration project, which is happening by 2027, the GAA, Camogie Association and LGFA, as I keep saying, that cannot happen soon enough. That needs to happen as soon as possible, because once we're all in the same association, we're all pulling from the same hymn sheet, we're all going in the same direction, then we can all help each other. And right now, because they're split into 2 different associations, often they're actually pulling at each other and not pulling in the same direction. And especially on the issue with dual players, they're pulling at each other. And this is another example of it. And it's unfortunate for Hannah Looney. It's unfortunate for players like that, who Libby Coppinger as well is a standout one, that are dual players, and dual players to the highest standard in both codes, by the way, and are key players for both Cork teams, and have to go through this year in, year out. And it must be really taxing on them. And it's disappointing. I do think Cork will win against Clare even without them. And I do make Tip strong favourites to beat Tipperary too.
Tipperary to beat Tipperary. The sense of delusion is seeping. Tipperary to beat Limerick.
Tipperary to beat Limerick.
Tipperary to beat Limerick, exactly. You know what? I might go for a shot prediction here. I think Limerick and Tip could be a draw. And obviously Cork to beat Clare. I like to look at this Limerick team. I don't know why. I just feel like Limerick...
Surely not a Cork man predicting 3 wins out of 3 for Cork.
Exactly, but it should be a very interesting weekend in that group, no doubt about it. But looking at the other games and looking at Group 2, Kilkenny faced Galway. This game is on in Nolan Park, UPMC Nolan Park, on Saturday at 4 p.m. It's live on the official Camogie YouTube channel as well, so it is a brilliant game to look forward to there at 4 p.m. And the other game then, Waterford are playing against Dublin in Walsh Park in Waterford at Saturday at 4 p.m. So the situation in this group is, have a look at here. So Kilkenny will actually play their last game of the group stage this weekend. Hard to fathom, but they will be. If Galway managed to win that game and Dublin managed to beat Waterford, then Kilkenny could still be in a tricky situation looking at mathematics and things like that. But if Waterford beat Dublin, and obviously there will be a winner in Galway Kilkenny, or it'll be a draw, then Dublin and Derry are both pushed by the wayside. So it's a must-win game, all said and done, Seamus, for this Dublin team against Waterford.
Yeah, and 2 super games. Kilkenny Galway is always a competitive one, and then Dublin Waterford, as you mentioned there, there's like a huge amount riding on it. the defeat to Kilkenny and the defeat to Galway and the defeat to Kilkenny have left us in this position where our backs are against the wall here. Especially the Kilkenny one would have hurt because obviously it's such a local rival and a team that we beat last year in the championship. Look, Ashmar has been missing for different games in the year, and it's been a taxing year on Ashmar and Emma O'Byrne, who are key players. Obviously, they were front and centre in the whole shorts fiasco, so no doubt that would have taken a toll on them in terms of their game. But going away to Waterford is going to be really, really tricky, man. Like the players that they have, the Niamh Rockets, the Beth Cartons, like as fine a player as there is around the country. And Waterford have performed well throughout this Camogie Championship up until this point. I think we can nick a draw, but I'm not sure that will be enough to keep us safe. I think Kilkenny-Galway, I fancy Kilkenny to take that, especially with home advantage. I think they're getting better under Clare. I think they're going from strength to strength, Leinster champions again.
Clare, Tommy Shefflin, you mean?
Sorry, Tommy Shefflin, yeah. But they're going from strength to strength and they're getting better and better. And look, they were always going to have to take a step back with the players that they lost, the Grace Walters, the Miriam Walters, to the Niamh Sculls. They were always going to have to take a step back. But it seems like they're rebuilding nicely. There's new players stepping forward. There's new players stepping to the fore, like young Shefflin. My mind really has gone blank. Sarah Barco, there you go. That's what I was trying to think of. She's the main one who's really, really impressed me. Steffi Fitzgerald, like players like this really, really.
Sophie Holden's been good too.
Sophie Holden, yeah, she's been really, really good. Like players like that have really stepped to the fore. And I do think, especially with home advantage, I see them getting over the line. So I think Dublin will get a draw, but I think it won't be enough.
Yeah, I think Waterford will probably beat Dublin in the end, but obviously that won't be enough, obviously. And I think Kilkenny, I'll agree with you, I think Kilkenny will beat Waterford at home as well. And just to end the podcast as well, the intermediate games at the weekend are as follows in the Camogie Championship, all on Saturday, obviously. So in Group 1, we have Antrim against Meath on an Antrim, and you have Offaly against Westmeath in a time to be confirmed on Saturday, according to Scorpio. So I don't know what that's about, but we will move. In Group 2, you have Carlow against Down at 1 p.m. on Saturday, and you have Kerry against Kildare at 2 p.m. on Saturday in Group 2 in the All-Ireland Camogie Intermediate Championship as well this weekend. One more comment in here. Gavin is saying, best of luck to the Roscommon Miners against Tyrone, playing nice attacking football. Unlike the seniors, undefeated so far in the campaign. Real chance to win the All-Ireland and hopefully beat Mayo again. Mayo playing Kerry in the other semi-final.
Against Louth. They were superb against Louth. Did you see the commentary for that game?
I didn't know, no.
Listen to the promo. Go listen to the promo that's on TG4. The commentator literally is the funniest commentator I've ever heard in my life. Literally just properly lost the rag when Roscommon scored. He literally just went, woohoo! Like it was mental. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah, exactly. But that is something to watch after the podcast. But the podcast has ended now, nearly 1 hour and 50 minutes, obviously. So like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Ring the bell for any notifications for any upcoming podcasts on the channel. Thanks to Seamus for coming on. Thanks to Capture Legs for sponsoring today's show. Thank you to Gavin O'Reilly. Thank you to Peter Griffin. Thank you to, I'm trying to look over, Liam White, of course, the man himself from Offaly that forgot about Glennisk. Then we move on to, I think, we're trying to mention a few people. Adam, I think, was one of the commentators. Sean O'Malley, that's another one that commented on today's show as well. And I think that's it. They commented on the show. I think that is it. Yeah, I think that's it. They commented on today's show. Thanks to all the commenters. Having said all that, thanks to Capture Legs for sponsoring today's show. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next week, we'll see you then. Take care and enjoy the games at the weekend.